We're live, JD.
Hey, we're
That
live.
yeehaw before we went live. Yeehaw.
Pow. Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Coach's Playbook. Joined here today by Dan Hodgman, Mick Geronimo, Coach Hogue, and myself, JD, filling in for Jack. Today we're going to talk a little bit about trading on tilt. What do you do after hitting a string of losers? But first, how about a funded trader shout out, Mick?
Happy to do this one. Big shout out to Emmeline Davre. She's up 5,600 right now, trading the NASDAQ, and just finished up a good trade. She was up 4,200 earlier, so added another 1,400 in short order since we hopped on this call.
That's awesome. 2 weeks in a row, Emmeline. And if you keep up with our blog, I apologize for misspelling your name last week. I'll get it right today, I promise you. 2 weeks in a row. I think that's our first. That's our first one. That's a streak, right?
It's a good streak to have.
Great streak.
All right. So on to trading on tilt. So there used to be sort of like a system of progression for advancing your trading career back in the day. You'd start in the trading pit, scalping, maybe making dozens, if not hundreds of trades a day to make or lose a tick or two. Then after you build up your account, you'd step back and sort of expand your time frames and start day trading, making less trades per day. Then from there, you'd step back even further and start swing trading, where maybe you make one or two trades a day or one or two trades a week, maybe. And the ultimate goal is to get to be a long-term position trader. So we don't hear much about pit traders that much now because they're pretty much all gone. But I think they sort of had it best early in their careers because they learned a valuable lesson early on. And that was, it's probably the only lesson that really transitioned over to screen trading. And that was, they learned how to take a loss very early on in their careers. When you're making so many trades a day, you're just bound to put on a loser. It's inevitable. There isn't a pit trader out there who can claim to, never have had a losing trade in a day. Not just a losing day, but a losing trade in a day. It's going to happen. I mean, when you step in the pit, and about the lesson, like when you step in the pit and you put on your first 5 or 10 trades and they're all losers, they knew right away that what they were doing was wrong and they needed to step out and kind of reevaluate. And that's still, I think, one of the hardest lessons for new traders now to learn because they didn't have that experience scalping. They're just diving right into day trading. And it's just how to accept a loss and move on from it. And even admitting when you're wrong and calling it quits for the day. So relating that to day traders. So basically what my point being is if you can't handle 3 losers in a row day trading, progressing to swing trading isn't going to work where your risk expands exponentially and it's just a whole new game. So learning early on how to take those losses, how to deal with them and move on, accept them and just continue to grow. So let's move over to Dan first. What's your experience trading on tilt?
Well, first off, I kind of want to get into what tilt really is. And I learned today, as we recorded the podcast, exactly where the definition comes from. I always thought it came from poker, which is one of the most common places it's used. It's also another term for a poker term called steam. I never heard of steam, but I've heard of tilt when it comes to poker. Well, and that's where I thought it originated, but it goes even further than that. And back in the day, people used to put some serious coin and ego into pinball. And when they were struggling and they were trying to hit that high score, they'd try and pick up the pinball machine. And if you picked it up, there's a level in there that would then trigger you tilted the machine. And that is where the term tilt comes from. You're trying to cheat your way or take the easy route to quickly pick up some points, and you'd get caught. Pinball would catch you. Poker or trading, there's really no catch points. I mean, obviously we have loss limits and risk parameters to try and keep us from getting to that point. But truthfully, anyone can get caught in tilt. It's inevitable. I think everyone in this group here has at some point in their career found themselves in that situation. It's inevitable. I won't sit here and say I haven't. Go listen to the podcast. I dive into kind of one of my own experiences with it. And if you don't know about our podcast, it's Limit Up. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud. Rate it, subscribe, tell us you like us. But really, it's all scalable and it's all related to who you are as a trader, right? If you're a trader that's looking to make $100, $200, $300 in a day, and your losses, you're trying to keep your losses no greater than $200, and all of a sudden you're at that 200 mark and you say, I'm going to start to leverage in. I'm going to try and build a little position. I want to recover these losses, which tends to be where tilt comes from. It's when we're thinking about that idea of revenge trading or getting back some of those losses and doing it in a little bit more of an extreme fashion, not taking those smart, high probability A setup type trades. Or if you're, a big time trader and you have thousands of dollars of risk every day, it's all scalable. It's all related to who you are as a trader. And the second you start to deviate from those plans is when you have to start to recognize you're working yourself towards tilt, and you can see it sometimes in yourself, but having those people that you're there to talk to and relate some information to and chat with, they'll see it usually before you see it in yourself. And so having some sort of community to chat with, someone around, if you have some trader that you talk to regularly, ask them, point it out if you recognize that things with me are starting to shift. We all do it. It's totally okay. You see it all the time where you hear about these conversations and maybe the person didn't get on tilt, but they said, I got I hit that limit, and man, my desire to open up my loss limits or my desire to leverage in really, God, I wanted it. And hey, I missed out on a great trade. Well, that's not a bad thing sometimes. So that's a little history of tilt, and it's inevitable and you're going to experience it, and that's okay. But don't do it twice.
Yeah, and that's a great point. If you're trading in an account with $1,000 loss limit and you're down $700, $800, $900 on the day, what do you think the odds are of you leveraging that last, $100 or $200 into a winning day or even a breakout day is? Well, I'll tell you, your odds are very low. So having that sense of mind to just kind of step back and realize what's happening is just
and in that kind of line of thought, JD, there's always going to be that one time when doing that saves your account or saves your day, and that's not necessarily a good thing. We can kind of establish some pretty bad habits in doing that, and I'm sure that you guys will all agree we've done that, and maybe gotten away with it once or twice. But the next 99 times you're not going to get away with it. So you start to get this feeling like, maybe this is something I can get away with. And when I get into this situation, most of the time you're not going to. When we are trading on tilt, I also call it getting your switch flipped. When something inside your head changes your ability to stay inside your strategy. Maybe it's a financial loss that flips your switch. Maybe there's a number of consecutive losing trades that causes you to go on tilt. That's one of the things that I look at when I'm talking to traders is, okay, I can see, every day that you've hit your daily loss limit, you've had, 4, 5, 6 consecutive losing trades. Dr. Menaker and I just did a market therapy about this subject. And, he says it's not really the market that we're trading. It's we're trading ourselves. And whenever we're trading, there's always going to be some degree of regret. Maybe we get out of a trade and it's a winning trade, but it goes 20 ticks further. We have the regret of getting out of that trade. Every loss we take, we probably have a degree of regret. It's understanding what that level is, whether it's a financial number, whether it's a number of consecutive losing trades, that's going to push us out of our strategy, that's going to take us out of our process, and may basically, just kind of create that animal that just claws and scrapes at anything to try and get that money back. Once you can find that level, I think you'll have a hard time walking away once you get that, because there's always that what if factor. I'm down my loss limit, but what if the next trade's going to make all that money back? Also a bad idea. You're better off just kind of remembering, okay, this is usually where I'm going to start to get angry, or I'm going to start to go on tilt. I'm better off just walking away. Again, it's hard because of that what if, but if you can do that in the long run, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. The less you lose, the more you stand to make. What do you think?
Yeah, regret and FOMO are absolute killers for day traders. So set those consecutive loss limits, 3 or 4 trades in a row, and get out of there. What do you think, Mick?
Well, I like everything that you guys had to say. And, in my opinion, tilt comes from emotion. You can have a losing day, a string of losing trades during a losing day, a string of losing days, a string of losing weeks. Doesn't necessarily mean you're on tilt. When you're on tilt is things aren't working for you, obviously, but emotion is what puts you into tilt. And usually it's frustration. When I've been on tilt before, frustrated that all my trades thus far have been losing trades, and let me slap some more on with more leverage in order to make it back. And so it's emotions, and then it's looking at your P&L too, or your account balance. So you're trying to get back what you lost, and you're basing your trading decisions on a P&L or on your frustration, on your emotions. It shouldn't be the case. You want to be basing your trading decisions on what you're seeing in the market and taking advantage of opportunities. So you can be on tilt for a day, you can be on tilt for a month. I've had days where I've been on tilt and then, snapped the streak and went back to, doing things normally. I've also been on tilt for a long period of time. If you guys have been watching these videos for a while, I brought up my soybean story from time to time where I just had a very strong short bias in the soybeans, and I was losing money every single day going short the market. And the more I lost, the bigger I wanted to trade because I was trying to make it back. And like John said, every once in a while you could get lucky doing that. And you'll, if you're down $1,000 on the day, you can make that 1,000 back. However, 9 other times out of 10, that's not going to be the outcome. But unfortunately, we as emotional beings tend to remember only the one time where we made it back. And we think to ourselves, hey, I've come back from this before. I can do it again, only to, have things get worse, those other 9 times out of the 10. So it's an emotional thing. I mentioned frustration. That's what I've experienced. You're mad that you're down money. You're mad that you can't put a winning trade together. You can't make the right decision. But also it can be a fear thing too. I've been in, I think anybody who's, traded for a while has been in a position that's, gotten a little bit further, than it should. And you start getting scared, oh my gosh, I really can't afford to take this loss. And you're trading to, make that money back out of the fear. I've been there before on some of the larger losing days. So my 2 cents is don't go on tilt, and you're less likely to do that if you have a plan. Stick to your plan. There should be no shame in having several losing trades in a day, or having losing weeks. It's going to happen. You just need to stick to your strategy, and as long as you're consistent and disciplined in your approach of that, things will come out all right for you. But when you start deviating from that, this tilt thing can get very, very ugly, and damage will be done before you even know what happened.
We used to call that when you were down money on a position and you add to that position, you leverage more into that position, and you average more into that position as it continues to go against you. We used to call it the moron trade. If it goes against you, put more on. Seen a lot of people blow up accounts that way.
Cannonballing
For sure.
Mick, you brought up an interesting subject, just kind of talking about your soybeans trade. You had that short bias. Something I've noticed with a lot of traders when they start to get on tilt, they've kind of been struggling. They've had a bias. Let's say it's the short bias, and the market's been going the other direction. And they all of a sudden, they finally get that short opportunity. Their patience is gone. They've been waiting for this to start to happen. And all of a sudden, they start selling the dips instead of the rips. And they're getting stopped out constantly. So even though you have that bias, because they've been waiting so long for that to happen, their patience is gone. And that's another chance people get on tilt, because they've been waiting for this move to present itself. It's very easy to think it's coming short, and you're doing it on the lows instead of waiting for those pullbacks to get into those shorts to try and cover some risk.
Yeah, I'm so happy you brought that up too, because it's basically a strong bias, or too strong of a bias can also lead you to tilt. You know, if you find yourself saying it has to do this, it has to do that, it can't go down, it can't go up any further, come on, you're going to get hurt badly. You need to be flexible, and if you know that anything can happen, you're less likely to fall into tilt. You know, goes back to emotions, or ties into that at least.
Yeah, you can adjust your trading plan too to add some micro rules. Let's just take today, for example, you know, don't short at all-time highs. It's like the ultimate rookie mistake, right? And we're seeing it right now. I hope nobody's on tilt trying to short the S&P. But there are things that you can do, adjusting to get yourself back into the game without risking way more than you should.
We got some comments here. I just want to shout out to everyone commenting so far. Tanya, Joshua, Level 2, Felix, Richie, Mr. Shine's Mystery Channel, Murph, Dolby, Level 2, just talking about how it was a great talk last week with Dr. Menaker. I do believe that'll be up on the YouTube page here shortly. Mr. Shine even kind of just mentioning this is how he lost his combine. Comfort turned into misery during the initial drop from the lockdowns. Profiton, good to see you. Ramen, good to see you. And yes, Level 2, Hogue just called you a moron.
Well, he's my son. I get to do that.
Right.
Well, with that, how about a quote, Dan?
Absolutely. I got one here from, I don't know who this is. I really just kind of try and find quotes that have to do with the topic. I can't in the beginning, I was trying to find them from specific people. A lot of times I don't even know who the person is. It's Adam Sakinski. Self-discipline is about controlling your desires and impulses while staying focused on what needs to get done to achieve your goal.
Perfect. That was on brand for today for sure.
100%.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week. Hogue, you want to take us home?
Sure. Let's see.
Country road.
No, we all, have things that are in our past that bring up anger. We have things that we're creating now that might bring up anger. Anger, emotion, fear, all of those things are things that are going to help you get into that tilt state. One of the things my dad always said about anger was it really doesn't matter who you're mad at, because half of them don't know you're mad at them and the other half don't care. Be in the now, get out there, do the things that are in your best interest every second. Have a great trading day.